Hey everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I am celebrating 15 years of sobriety. It's a really big accomplishment for me. I wanted to talk a little bit about my backstory, about why I got sober and what's happened since I got sober and how my life has changed because of that. So basically, 15 years ago, uh, I was just a terrible, terrible drunk person all the time. I drank very, very frequently. I did some drugs too. I won't get too much into that, but I just was not in a good place. I was just not a good drunk. I was like your typical like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like I was a decent person when I wasn't drinking, but as soon as I started drinking, I just became such an asshole and I couldn't control how much I drank. Like I just couldn't stop once I started. Um, it was really terrible. I was really, really depressed and just it was just wearing me down, and it was terrible. I definitely don't want to go back there again. Just had no control over my life whatsoever. Um, I was damaging relationships with people that cared about me and that I cared about. I would just, I'd wake up in the morning and try to not remember what I did the night before because it was embarrassing and it probably caused a scene and just it just wasn't who I was, and I just really, I didn't like myself very much. And I was just drinking to cope with some stuff that I had going on, mental health wise and just in general. You know, I did drugs for a while and once I got away from that, I replaced it with drinking and man, it just really took off. So 15 years ago on Christmas, it was a pretty bad day. I had kind of fallen back into some drug stuff, which was, I had been away from it for a couple of years and kind of started falling back into that. And then it's just such a slippery slope for me. So I was just really scared that I was going to go back down that road again with the drugs, which was way worse than the drinking. Um, yeah, believe it or not, like drinking like that was an improvement over what my life was like when I was doing drugs. So anyways, I won't get into too much detail, but I just felt so alone. Um, I, uh, I didn't want to live anymore, you know? I just, I mean, my life was falling apart. I was losing everything. I lost my girlfriend at the time because of my drinking. And I just had no friends. I had no social life other than drinking, which I did alone most of the time. So actually, leading up to Christmas, I had tried to get sober a couple times the few months leading up to that, and I just couldn't get it. It wasn't sticking. So Christmas came, not a great day, and I decided, you know what, I really got to give this a decent shot, and my sponsor at the time told me, you got to do this or people are going to stop taking you seriously. And, at this point I had had maybe like 3 months here and there off and on. So I had made some friends in sobriety and he was basically, my sponsor was telling me, you're going to lose all that. And, you know, it was enough to push me over the line to get sober and to stay sober. And in the beginning, it was really great because it was new. I was meeting new people. I had a social life. Like things got really good really quick. And it was very apparent that the alcohol was causing a lot of issues. But as a little bit of time went by, some mental health stuff started creeping back in. And I realized that getting sober was only half the battle. That just opened the door to so many other issues that had to be addressed. And now I didn't have that coping mechanism of drinking. So, I I really ran with sobriety the way that I ran with drinking and drugs. I I just I got addicted to being sober, in the best way possible. And I started working on myself and the things that came up after I stopped drinking, mental health stuff, anxiety, depression, some paranoia and some PTSD. Just not a lot of good stuff going on. As far as like my mental health. But I started working on that, and, you know, I started building a life of sobriety. Um, and it was really incredible compared to what it had been for the last few years of my life. Um, I met my friend Bob, who we kind of just stuck together. We got sober together, and we just kind of stuck together. And in the beginning, we would go camping, which was a new thing for me. Then we would ride quads in upstate New York, and I had an absolute blast up there. Um, we would go up there in the winter and, you know, attach some inner tubes to the back of the quad and just do donuts all around the meadow and upstate New York at Bob's property. We just had a blast. I mean, just so much fun, just such a contrast from where I had been as far as like having fun in my life. Like when I was drinking, like there was no fun. I didn't do anything fun, you know? So all these new things were coming up, and like riding quads was just like incredible, like something I had always wanted to do and never did because drinking was my priority. So, I bought a quad, and we just had such a blast going up there, um, camping and just hanging out and just kind of like growing together and like, helping each other out, Bob and I, and my brother would come upstate New York too. We'd have these like weekend trips up there with a couple guys. We'd do a winter trip. That was always awesome, camping out in the snow. We'd all kind of like lay in a circle around the campfire and just throw logs on the fire throughout the night and just kind of sleep under the stars, no tent, nothing. It was so incredible. Such an awesome experience. And we did that a couple times for the first few years. Um, and then I started getting back into motorcycling, which was, I had done a little bit. I kind of dabbled with it and around like 19 years old. I got sober at 25, but I dabbled with it at 19, and it kind of went away because, like I said, drinking was the priority, so I stopped doing it. But then in sobriety, a couple of years went by, and I was like, you know what, maybe there was something there. Like maybe I want to explore this a little more. So I bought a motorcycle. I kind of retaught myself how to ride. My brother taught me originally, so I had a pretty good base of how to ride a motorcycle, but I was pretty nervous. But I just kind of took my time, and I got back into it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I taught my friend Bob how to ride a motorcycle. He had never been on one before. So that was quite an experience, teaching him how to do that, and sharing this passion that I had for motorcycling, this new passion. Um, so shortly after that, I don't know where it came from, where the idea came from, but I decided to ride a motorcycle across the United States and just see if it was possible. Like I didn't know other people were doing stuff like that. Like it just kind of came to me. I talked to my brother, who had been a truck driver for a while. So he really knew the US. I got some pointers from him on like where to go and what to see. Um, and Bob and I and my girlfriend at the time set off on what would end up being about a 20,000-mile trip that would absolutely change my life for the better in so many ways. I absolutely fell in love with the traveling by motorcycle and just being so immersed in your environment, and like I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I never would have found this if I hadn't gotten sober. So it was just such an incredible gift for me. And I ran with it. It wasn't enough. Like I got home from that couple months of traveling around the United States on my motorcycle. Um, did so many things wrong on that trip. I learned so much the hard way. But it was such an incredible journey. And I got back from that trip and immediately started planning how I was going to get more of that and do more of that. So I decided after a little while I was gonna move to Arizona and go to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute and just build a life around motorcycles. So I did. I moved out to Arizona. I got a nice little apartment for myself. I started going to school. I met a lot of really awesome people in school, and we would go riding on the weekends and after class, and just really cool to be meeting new people that were also into motorcycling, which was a new thing for me. Because I had pretty much Bob and I were the only people that I knew that rode that were in my life. So going to school, like I met like people that were passionate about this too. And it was incredible. Yeah, school was awesome, but I decided while I was in school that I didn't want to become a mechanic for several reasons. One being that the money wasn't that great, and you really had to start at the bottom and work your way up and pay your dues. And that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Like my passion wasn't fixing motorcycles. My passion was riding motorcycles. So I took a ton of trips while I was in school. Phoenix to Yellowstone in 24 hours on the bike, come back and go to class on Monday. Like that was my weekend. Explored all over the Southwest, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, all over Arizona. So much riding, so much riding. I was just so hooked on it, and it was so incredible. And I just had such an amazing time. Um, and all of this because I got sober. This never would have happened if I had continued drinking. And I knew and I know I will lose all of that if I start drinking again. So things were going really well. Bob moved out to Arizona and we went on a couple more trips, some big ones. Constantly riding, like that was my only mode of transportation to and from school, to work, whatever. And then on the weekends, I would just go hundreds and hundreds of miles every weekend. Um, did a couple more really big trips. During this time, I started my first YouTube channel, 40 Times Around. And my goal was to ride around the world, which never ended up happening, but I'll get into that in just a second. But I did some really incredible things, and I met some really amazing people through that channel. Traveled around the United States even more. I took a 10-month trip to go to all the national parks and met a bunch of people and stayed with a bunch of people at their house and had dinner with people that had found out about me through my YouTube channel. So it was incredible. It was just like a magical experience, honestly. It was just, I don't even know how to explain it. Just so rewarding. Like I was just so high on life and like so far from where I had been. My confidence was getting better. And as I did more traveling on the motorcycle and I did more YouTube videos, like YouTube for me really helped me grow as a person. Like there were so many benefits of doing that. Um, not just because it was like semi-successful, but just like seeing myself on camera and like working on how I look in front of the camera and stuff, really helped build a lot of confidence and social confidence that I didn't really have before I did that. Like I'm not the type of person that would start a YouTube channel. Honestly, like I'm very quiet. I don't really usually have a lot to say. But starting this channel really helped me grow as a person. So that was an unexpected benefit. So took a couple more trips around the US. COVID came. I was down in Mexico when COVID hit. I came back to the US. I went up to San Francisco, Oregon for a while, and then I spent a couple of weeks in San Francisco helping a friend remodel a house. And I don't know where it came from. I think maybe just like working too much and traveling too much and just going so hard, so hard for so long, like just nonstop action. I think it just all caught up with me, and I had some mental health things come up that I had gotten away from and been free of for a while. I kind of went off the deep end. I had, a psychotic episode. I was hallucinating. I was having extreme paranoia. I was absolutely terrible. So terrible. But I stayed sober through it. Ended up in the hospital because of it. That was not a good situation. And when I got out, I kind of lost interest in everything that I enjoyed doing, and motorcycles in particular. I just lost interest in it. I continued riding and I took a few more trips around the United States anyway, just to make sure. But I just wasn't enjoying it like I used to. Uh, I started getting help, seeing a therapist, seeing a psychiatrist. I got on some medication that I really don't want to be on, but I also really don't want to go back to where I was. The medication has definitely helped, but I do kind of think that the medication also causes other issues, which I'm not thrilled with. Basically, what I think is I'm on an antipsychotic right now. I think that that causes my depression to be worse because it blocks dopamine receptors. And because my depression is worse and the antipsychotic makes me tired, they put me on an antidepressant that gives me energy and that gives me anxiety. And I know this because we cut that one in half and my anxiety pretty much went away. So I do want to get off this medication eventually, but for now I need to be on it and continue working on myself and fixing these issues that are broken inside of me. So I lost interest in motorcycles and I started getting into hiking, which was new for me. I had spent so much time in national parks and really not done much hiking in them. I would ride through them on my bike. I would, explore backcountry roads, do a little bit of like off the bike, walking around, but not really hiking. I just absolutely fell in love with hiking, the way that I fell in love with motorcycles a few years ago. And again, like this wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gotten sober and stayed sober and like found this whole new passion. Like I got to do so many amazing things on a motorcycle that I absolutely loved. I was just so fortunate in that way. I really put in the work to make those things happen, but I was just so fortunate that I was spared what could have been my future if I had not gotten sober. And I don't know that I would even be here today if that was the case, if I hadn't gotten sober. I think I probably would have been dead by now. And I got to do all these things that I would have missed out on. It was so incredible. And now I found hiking, which was this whole new thing, this whole new world of possibilities opened up. Done a bunch of backpacking trips in the last couple of years. I got to go to Everest Base Camp. If you didn't see that video, definitely check that one out. That was just a trip of a lifetime. I went with my brother. Again, this never would have happened if I wasn't sober, you know. And if I hadn't built this confidence of doing YouTube and like being in front of the camera and talking and sharing my knowledge, even though like I wasn't necessarily comfortable with it and it like made me nervous and everything, but just pushing through that, like that's where I found the confidence to go to Nepal and hike to Everest Base Camp, 80 miles. That wasn't me, but it was something I absolutely loved and wanted to do. But it was scary, but I did it anyway, much like I did with the YouTube thing. And that was pretty recent. So that kind of catches us up to where we are today. And like, my mental health issues are still there, but they're getting so much better. I'm working with a new therapist the last couple months, and that's been working out really, really well. We're really getting into some deep stuff and working on some things that had been bothering me that are kind of now going away and getting better. But I think it's going to be a lifelong journey of getting better and just staying better. But I am so grateful that I got away from that stuff and I got sober. And 15 years later, I mean, I'm just unrecognizable. I have integrity now. I have friends. I have, a future that I never had before. I have so many amazing experiences that I got to have because of getting sober. And I am so, so grateful for that. So 15 years, I mean, I never would have thought, like there was a time where I couldn't get 2 nights under my belt, maybe one night, and then like I'd relapse the next night. And I just could not get it. I could not stand up from the ground. And somehow, some way I managed to do that and get sober and stay sober. And I've had the pleasure of helping some other people get sober, which was just such an incredible experience to see them blossom and like get sober and build a better life for themselves. Like that was so rewarding for me. So yeah, I mean, life is unrecognizable. I am so excited to be alive and like do amazing things, get to do these like hikes that I get to go on and like, you know, I don't just the fact that I'm able to appreciate nature and the outdoors and the mountains and the desert, waterfalls, like being able to really appreciate and enjoy that and be in the moment is such a gift for me that I didn't always have. That this wasn't something that I really had any interest in when I was drinking. And now I found so much joy and value in being out in nature. And it helps me so much heal and get better and feel better and push myself and build, mental resilience to deal with these other things that I have going on. So it's been quite a journey. 15 years, I can't believe it, honestly. Like, it doesn't even make sense. People that knew me back then would not believe it, you know. Um, the people that have been in my life throughout that, like my family, like they've seen the changes, I'm so grateful that I'm not the person that I was back then. And like I'm able to be a decent brother and a decent son and a decent friend. Um, you know, so I'm just I'm really happy now. I do have some mental health issues that I'm struggling with, but I'm getting help for that and I'm working on that and I still feel really good about everything. Um, Life is really good today, even in spite of some of the challenges that I face. Um, I know the drinking would not help those problems and it would only make it worse. It's no longer an option for me. Um, so yeah, it's incredible. It's been incredible. Life is awesome. I'm super stoked to be here. I started this new YouTube channel, Tim Collins ADV, to kind of share, my hiking adventures and the stuff that I'm passionate about now. I do think maybe someday I'll get back into motorcycling, but for now, I'm just really, really enjoying this hiking and backpacking, and just foot travel, and even some kayaking too. I got into that a little bit in the last couple of years. That's a lot of fun. Haven't posted a ton of videos about that, but I've done some kayaking and that is just so enjoyable for me. Um, but the hiking, man, it's really doing it for me right now. So I'm really thrilled to be sharing that with you guys. And I appreciate that you guys are here with me, um, showing support, leaving comments, all that stuff. I know a lot of you guys came over from the old channel from 40 Times Around. And I really appreciate that you stuck with me, even though I kind of like jump ship on the stuff that I was doing over there. I appreciate that you guys stuck with me and made your way over to this new channel. Um, so yeah, I'm glad to have you guys here. I'm glad to be sharing my experiences with you. And you know, another thing that I found about doing YouTube is that like I'm more motivated to get out and do these things because I'm like, oh, I want to share more stuff. I want to make more videos and more content. So I'm more likely to go out and take hikes and do these things that sometimes maybe I'm not so motivated to do. And when I get out there and I do that and I film it, I'm always so glad that I did, and I always feel better afterwards. So that's just incredible. Anyways, I don't know. I think I'm starting to ramble, but I'm just really grateful. And 15 years, I cannot believe it. Thank you guys for being a part of that journey with me, a big part of it. And that's kind of it. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, thanks so much for being here and supporting what I'm doing here on YouTube. Really means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. So thank you for being here, and I will talk to you guys real soon. Bye.